Hey everybody, Arnaldo Waffman here with CompuShow Video Manuals. Today really isn't going to be a tutorial as much as fulfilling a user request about how I have my personal show laid out. Now if you watch the videos, and hopefully you've seen all the tutorials, a lot of the stuff that I cover here, pretty much everything that I have on here, I've already done a tutorial for. So if you want to see how I did a particular program that I'm going to show you in just a bit, that's all in the tutorial series. But as far as putting it all together and making it in an easy to understand layout, this is it. Now I have this right now set up as a one monitor system because my capture software does not allow me to do two monitors, and it would be a lot harder to see two monitors in one video anyhow. So this is a little bit easier to do, and I'll even cover how I have it laid out in my MIDI-Con, and that will be in a later video. But for now, I just want to real quick show you the main screen. So this is the master screen, and a lot of us use the master screen to combine lots of lights together and all that. I don't. For our events, we pretty much busk everything, and if I do need a pre-programmed show, I will actually change my layer. So for example, I had one that I just deleted because I was cleaning it up for a concert that I did a while back. But as you change different layers, you can have them all look differently. So in that case, I had one that said Winter Haven Chorus. I had one that said WWE Wrestling. A couple different ones. But Dumbmaster, as I call it, is pretty much anytime that we are busking. But it's not combining multiple lights together. What it's doing is it's combining all the different floods that we have together. So for example, on our flood color swaps, and let me see, actually I should open the DMX level so you guys can get an idea of what that looks like. But on the flood color swaps, that's all of our floods, because we have multiple floods depending on the type of event, whether it's the dots matrix or the hex 5Ps or the regular dots or the tri 64s. I try not to get rid of lights, so this is the really easy way for me to be able to keep track of stuff. And actually, no, it's fixtures that I want to have open to show you guys. Sorry, wrong one. There we go. So let's go back to the master here. So let's take a look at the main one. First, we have our flood color swaps, and that's pretty simple, right? We have a couple different colors, and then the F stands for fade. So it fades back and forth. So I'll just go ahead and turn off the phase to 0. And we've got three different sets of colors. We've got red fades, we've got blue, green, and pink. And then I've got a multicolor, just a standard multicolor. Or we have one that goes directly to sound. ClingNet is if I'm doing ClingNet in, it'll control my floods and time them to the ClingNet show. So it'll override whatever this is, but it doesn't override the strobe or anything like that. And again, if you want to look into ClingNet merging, there's a video on that as well. So next to it over here, we have the dots presets. This is for the dots matrix. Those are the built-in macros and a speed control for that. Presets, if I'm doing just something for a wedding or school or corporate, just something where I just need a couple of basic cues, and that includes all my lights, I just have it here. I have Initialize and Initialize Switches, because what happens is if you have the init button, right, if I have here and a switch and I double click the init, they go away. But in the MIDI-Con, it does not go away, or any MIDI device, it doesn't go away. So I have the Initialize Switches, and what that does, let me just right click here so I can show you. It's just a regular blank switch. There's nothing to it. But it has selected reset other buttons when activated, so it'll shut off all the other switches. And right here I have limited time. I just have it. It says 20 seconds, but you could even do just 2 or 3 seconds. Okay, so now going back to that, let's go here on the left-hand side. Flood themes. These are just basically a couple basic scenes that I've done using palettes. I actually had a lot more, but I'm reprogramming them all, so I deleted all of them. I have flood effects. These are color chases that go with different themes. Again, I had a whole bunch, but I'm reprogramming them. And solid colors. On this part here, we've got our master color, and we have our color mix all, which pretty much is everything, including our NO beam LEDs. It has our Pocket Z Force, anything that's LED color mixing in it. And then we have color mixing, which is just the floods. Master shutters, these are actually triggered from the MIDI-Con, but in case you need to grab one right then and there, and there's a speed control for each one. Same thing with the master strobe. Notice that there is a Strobe here, which is an ATP, and a strobe all. Again, always takes priority. I just want to override everything. Especially that because if you watch my video on the Hex 5Ps, I actually have different faders for the white, the UV, and the RGB, even though there's only one dimmer for that light, using CompuShow's virtual dimmers. And again, I have a video tutorial pretty much on everything in this program. Now let's go and look at these hidden scenes here, because these are usually triggered by the MIDI-Con. So let's take a look. First of all, what is this? Well, there is nothing programmed to this at all. These are just basic buttons so I can get MIDI feedback on the MIDI-Con Pro, but it's to create a virtual selector. So what happens is when I click the virtual selector that says solid color chase, it only selects these right here. And then if I choose the fade, then, or excuse me, I'm sorry, that's solid. And then when I click on fade, it only chooses these right here. So there's really nothing going on here. These are just blank switches to have the proper MIDI feedback. Okay, all white is just a scene that I made that if you look here on the left hand side, it makes everything flash. And I haven't programmed, these are the 5Ps right here. I have not programmed those guys yet, but it basically makes everything just flash white and immediately shut off. So basically, if you're doing a bass drop and you get a really bright white flash that builds up and then comes down, and then you can choose the speed of how much you want it. All blackout is pretty much what it says, all blackout. But again, I haven't programmed some of these in case you can't tell there. All white on is exactly what it says, all white on. And then have individual dimmers, the QWH5s, the Tri-60s, the Tri-Pars, dots, pretty much all of my floods. Why don't I use the individual page? Because again, I want to have my faders where I can override them if I needed to. So for example, with the dots, I can't remember, oh, not the dots, I'm sorry, the Hex 5Ps, I have virtual faders. So if I use the page fader, the master page fader, that's on each one, not for the master page, but for the Hex 5P, and I bring that dimmer down, it brings everything down. By creating virtual faders, and again, I've done a video on this already, I have much better control of my lights. I just have some strobes right here for my Freak 16s and the Freak 5s. I have them going to the music. So that's pretty much it. Notice these are set to always on and always takes priority. I do not want anything overriding these at all. They get moved over there. Oh, actually, I think I have one more set of hidden stuff. No, that's pretty much it. There's really nothing there. Those are just empties that I need to go through and see what they do before I delete them. But before, I had like built-in macros or cycles if I was at a trade show or something, and I hide that out of the way to keep people from messing with it. Let's go and look at the next one. So basically, again, we busk our entire show, and we have our, this is just for the InnoScan HP, just something very simple. I actually don't have a lot behind it, again, because we busk it. We've got some different dimmer fades here, or shutter chases. We have our normal switches, and then I just have 3 different sets. I have slow, medium, and fast. I don't have too many of these buttons because I made enough for each row of the MIDI-Con. And I'll show you that in just a moment. Actually, let's just go ahead and open that up since I'm already talking about it. So over here, we have slow, medium, and fast, right? This is a slow, medium, and fast. And you can see there, it triggers it. Okay, and it automatically jumps to slow, medium, and fast. But why don't I mean, again, that's why I don't have a lot of them. But also because if I want to change the gobo, I can just click that and change the gobo. I can change the color. There's some color chases here. And thanks to James, because he actually made this page, or these extra switches here. So it made it a little bit easier for me to, program from there. And then I made these programs here. And then some of these other programs were variations of ones that James had made too. If I want to change the position, if I want to speed up or slow down, I've got speed, phasing, and this is a strobe wheel, which I'll cover in just a second. But that being said, when you're doing it like that, you can busk fairly easily. Now let's look at the MIDI-Con here. This is how I have mine set up. This is the regular MIDI-Con, not the Pro. But I have faders, so we have a flood, first set of moving heads, second set of moving heads. We have the centerpiece. If there's a laser, if we have the freaks, they go there. And the last one is UV. The UV lights are set to always be on. And actually, I'll open up the 5P to show you that. But the UV is set to always be on. And we just fade up and down with that UV fader. So let's go ahead and look at the 5P here. There we go. And again, please watch the tutorial where I did on that. Again, the black lights are always on no matter what happens. Okay, and white is always on. Oh, actually, no, sorry. White was on there. So, yeah, not a lot going on in the individual fixture page. But you'll see here that this is not controlling the dimmer for that because I've made virtual dimmers. And what I did with the 5P is I have a dimmer, obviously, for the UV, and I just use the UV itself. With the RGB, I found out that if I tried dimming the RGB, even as a virtual dimmer, it would dim the UV. So what I did is, oops, I'm sorry, that's the wrong page. Here we go. I actually dimmed the compressions. So see, these are all the compressions here, and I have it where it dims on the master page, any compression that's red, green, blue, or pink. So it doesn't matter what flood I have on here. Whenever I dim this down, it dims just what's in this particular compression set. So that made it a little bit easier. Over here, these touch buttons I actually use to call the page. So there's the master page, and I can go over here. I'm sorry. That's the freak page. I forgot I switched that around. So that's the freak page here. Here's where I can recall different ones. So there's the master page. I can go to my InnoScan page. And what I want you to notice is that here, right, page 1, those are my master scenes. And if I go, for example, from 8, it gives me this one. If I go to 10, it gives me the next one. But if I click on this one, I believe here. Whoop. Sorry, now it's this button here. No, which one is it? There we go. 8. Now those same buttons control the floods because I did virtual selectors. So these are basically my shift buttons. So if 7 is clicked, it just gives me solids. If I click 8, it gives me those fades between those color swaps. This would allow me to select a centerpiece if I had one mapped, which I don't right now. And over here is the bubble machine button, which I actually switched to be an enter button. See, on the new map, which I don't have on this one. But actually, where you right click, and then you can hit button number 11, I think is the one I mapped it to. But when you click number 11, it would activate whatever you right click, which would allow you to preset. And I also made a video on that as well, in case you guys are curious. But check this out. Going back over here, when I switch from my master to my InnoScan HP, see how my page automatically jumped. And that's because this is set to be my InnoScan HP. And there's my slow, medium, and fast scenes. This allows me to select a shutter chase, a strobe when I hold, or strobe on and off, excuse me, and then strobe only when I hold. These are different buttons. I made a whoops button, which basically triggers the favorites. I made one that turns everything solid white. I made that white flash that I told you about, and a master initialize, which pretty much gives me every single initialize for all of the pages. It's the major whoops button. But this particular wheel here is set to be the strobe for every single page and every single light. So this is a master strobe speed. And when I click it, there it goes. When I click it, it turns on the actual strobe button. So it turns the for the floods, only for the floods. Because if I need to turn individual moving head, I can just click on that. So that in a nutshell is pretty much how I have my stuff organized. There's actually quite a bit going on in the background, but I really hope that helps you guys out. If you have any questions or anything, please leave them in the comment below, even if you don't have questions. Remember, the YouTube favors videos that have lots of interaction. So do a thumbs up. Please make sure to share, subscribe. Most importantly, leave a comment. Thanks as always so much for watching. You guys have a great evening. Keep an eye out for more of the CompuShow tutorials. Have a good night, and God bless.